2014's Watch Dogs set you loose in a recreation of Chicago as Aiden Pierce, a guy who could hack and control virtually anything in his open world with a few taps on his phone. The idea of instantly taking control of your surroundings was irresistible to millions of players, and it's heading out west to the home of tech, the San Francisco Bay Area. But before we go there, we're visiting Ubisoft Montreal, the development home of Watch Dogs 2. There's a lot to discover about our new hacker hero Marcus Holloway and the new ways that he can control and influence his interconnected surroundings. To find out more, we asked the creators themselves about the real-world locations they chose to recreate and how you'll be able to hack into it all.
One of the things we've pushed a lot more is hacking. People like the idea. I think the grand promise of controlling an entire city is so big, it sparks the imagination of people. I think people wanted to do so many different things with it that we wanted to continue to push forward the second game. That's why Watch Dogs 1 was pointing at something, pressing a button. And Watch Dogs 2, when you point at something, you can either press a button or lock into it, and then you have more options to remote control, decide what you want to do with that object, and combine those possibilities with others to make more creativity out of it.
When we started looking at the feedback for Watch Dogs 1, it was clear that driving was polarizing. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. We wanted everybody to be able to have fun while driving, to drive where they wanted to drive without hitting walls all the time, be in control of their vehicles, but keep up the fact that every vehicle should feel different, every type of vehicle should feel different, and you should have depth and mastery in driving as you would in any other of the game mechanics.
Can you hack other cars while you're driving?
Yes, for sure. So right now, while you're driving, you can hack. You can even deploy your drones and hack into and remotely connect through your drones to have different point of view. You can shoot, which is something a lot of gamers ask. They said, you know what, that's the way I want to play. You know, I have a gun. Why can't I shoot while I'm in a car? Okay, so now you can.
Watch Dogs 2 focuses on Marcus, a young hacker with a huge axe to grind with the system, thanks to being framed for a crime he didn't commit. And as he takes on the system of control that now dominates the game's Bay Area, he'll get a lot of help from a lot of friends.
Marcus Holloway, and you're going to hear this a lot, he's a gifted hacker. He's somebody who's very self-made. He's actually a really brilliant, sort of charismatic figure. And I think it's actually that latter part that I love about the character, is that he's the kind of person that people will rally around.
You start off small, right? Marcus Holloway just joined into DedSec, and DedSec needs to fight this war against Bloom, which represents all the companies in the Silicon Valley, as well as the Bay Area for San Francisco. And they quickly realize that they need to have a certain amount of horsepower to pull off what they need to do. So when they go on that journey, it's all about like spreading the word, right? Like showing truths about certain companies, certain technologies. What's great about that is it makes it possible for us to explore a lot of different stories. So it's not just a revenge story or something like that. It's more like, okay, what about like the social media regarding the next election? Can I dig into that and then show how social media can impact our choices, a bit like what's going on in real life right now with the election in the United States? Or in the complete opposite, end up talking about the evolution of AI and stuff like that with our company called like Titus. And then every time you do something and expose that truth to people, you get followers, which makes you the ability to level up.
We started realizing, okay, well, you know, we also want to talk about hackers as a community. We wanted to address them as being people that work together. The aspect of DedSec, of the community that we have, comes about through that they have to work together in order to accomplish things, and it cannot just be done alone.
It's definitely not a linear narrative, but there are some key beats in the story we want you to hit. So there's, I guess, operations you can just find in the world and do in any order. And then there's operations that will lead you to that key moment. And then because they're narrative continuity, you know, you need to hit that to have different operations. But mainly we unlock a lot in parallel, and you decide, you know, the order you want to do them. We're going away from some of those elements that we had, like hacking a tower will give you something and all that. That'll be more world exploration, and our narrative will be in an app called DedSec app, which is basically all the stories you find are unlocked, and you can do them in any order. So the game structure is going to change, I mean, dramatically from Watch Dogs 1 to Watch Dogs 2.
Everything you do kind of gives you followers in the world. So we didn't want to say do these things in this order in order to get the amount of followers you need to tackle the problem. Instead, we're saying everything gives you followers. And if you want to do puzzles on the sides, you can do. If you do online, like cooperation with other players, you can do as well. If you don't want to do a certain main narrative story operation, you can completely dodge it and still finish what you have to do for the game.
We here at Ubiblog live and work in the Bay Area, so seeing San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Oakland, and Marin County transformed into a dynamic open-world sandbox is something of a dream come true. But what can we do in Watch Dogs 2's version, and how does it measure up against the real thing?
So we have, I think it's something like 150 things that we wanted to make sure we had, like key landmarks. I'm not gonna run you through all of them, but it's not just Koi Tower and Sutra Tower and the Golden Gate. And the reality is, I think even people who live in the Bay are gonna discover things in the game that are actually reflection of things that exist in the real Bay Area. Obviously, it's a great city for driving because of the iconic hills and slopes for sure, but then also because the kind of roads you have in Oakland, San Francisco, Marin County is very different.
One thing that was noticeable in one of our scouting trips was the amount of construction. And with construction, we had a lot of cranes, and that kind of triggered, I guess, a need for us to use that as a gameplay tool, and especially being a hacker, well, you can hack it. So it went well into our philosophy of remote control ingredients.
So our current design for fast traveling is you can fast travel to any of your HQ or any of the shops around the city. And since we have a lot of shops, it means we basically allow you to fast travel very easily around the world.
As intrigued as we are by its story and setting, the most immediately striking thing about Watch Dogs 2 is how different its action looks from the first game. Key to this is Marcus's fluid, context-sensitive parkour, but it turns out that's just the start of what's ahead.
Definitely the parkour is more an evolution of what Aiden had in the first game. It's not about making him climb everywhere all the time. I think it's more an ideal. Like you want to present a character with a certain flow that continues into everything he does. He's younger, more athletic, more daring, more into dangerous stuff. So I think when he moves, it's worthwhile to see that flow in a natural way. But then when it continues into the hacking, you want to continue to feel that flow, right? You don't want to point into something, press a button, you point and you control it. And then you can continue having ideas. So even if you cross another player, you continue with him, and it's more about this flow to make sure everything rolls naturally.
Yeah, the Thunderbolt is a really cool weapon. So what we're doing with melee is we're keeping a contextual melee, as in Watch Dogs 1, but we want it to be more granular. So you don't have to take down people lethally, so you can have various degrees of takedowns. We're keeping a very fast, effective melee system, but try to combine it with the fact that Marcus is a very fast character, a very agile character, so you can chain it more naturally in your movement.
All our missions are 360, meaning there is a goal, there's a problem and objective, you need to do something. And then you can approach this problem any way you want. It can be combat, stealth, or as a hacker.
There's two things that in design that we really wanted to push with hacking. First one was being more analog, which means making sure each element could be controlled in different ways. So you really want to make sure, for example, when you point at a car, you can lock into it and then it can accelerate, steer left, right, backward, layer these inputs on top of each other, so it almost feels like you're controlling a car from a distance perfectly. So you can do that with every car around you. Then, at the same time, you have those gadgets that you can throw like everywhere that are sticky to everything. One of them is more destructive, the other is more stealth taser-like, so you can play the way you want. So players start having a what-if moment, right? Wait a minute, I can hack every car, I can stick stuff into everything. Can I throw a bomb into the front of a car? Can I turn that bomb into a proximity trigger and then accelerate the car from a distance to then throw like a movable bomb into 6 persons in a row? The answer to that is yes. Can I throw my flying drone into the air and then stick a bomb to that and then see what happens with that? Does it work? Yes.
Can you lose the flying drone?
Yes, but you can recraft it on the fly. Crafting an object is just like, it's a cooldown where like the character can recraft it after a certain amount of time. So we don't want to create that feeling where, oh my God, my precious flying drone, I don't want to take risk with it. It's quite the other way around. Go, try something out.
So the more fame you get through DedSec, the more followers you get, and that gives you research points to invest in hacking. You can develop all your hacking skills. We're adding 3D printing, so you can print your weapons, you can print your remote control jumper, your quadcopter, your drone.
We want to make sure that every mission in the game, we don't force you down a certain style. So any mission in the game, you can play full stealth or full ghost. Which doesn't mean not using hacking, and which doesn't mean not using weapons, but we have, for example, the taser weapons, silence pistols, that supports the ghost play style. And you have a lot of hacks you can do that will help you infiltrate areas stealthily. We have the aggressor style, which is basically full gun blazing, and then we're adding a lot of different hacks and weapons and customizable weapons for the player to do this. And even the drones can help you be an aggressor. For example, we have drones that you can upgrade to deploy some explosive, as that's the way you want to do it. And then the third style is what we call the trickster, which is relying heavily on hacking. And oftentimes you don't even go in the danger area. You can stay outside, use your drone, use your hacking, and infiltrate the area through that. Play with people, manipulate the AI, and get to your objective, oftentimes without even setting foot in the mission layout. One of the things we're adding to Watch Dogs is what we call network hacking. When you get into that mode, you can see through walls and you can see in the entire area all the hackable ingredients. So that way, if I'm in front of a wall, I can go in network hacking, I can see a camera behind it, I can see a computer behind it, I can see a car or someone, I can hack that person or I can hack that thing through the wall.
In contrast with the lone wolf narrative of the first Watch Dogs, community and cooperation will be major themes in Watch Dogs 2. And that's reflected in your ability to get help not just from other players, but from the Bay Area's citizens as well.
When you start the game, you can just meet another DedSec friend anywhere in the city. So it can be a complete stranger, but you know they're part of DedSec and you know they're allies. You have a contact list in your phone, and you can actually jump in the game of your friends. So you can actually provoke that situation with someone you know, and then go and co-op if you want to. And if players don't want that, they can turn this off. You know, there's a whole set of missions that are meant to be done in co-op. So it's really a new layer we're adding to the whole open world of Watch Dogs 2.
Can you still invade other players' games and grief them?
Yes, we're bringing that back. That hacking was the most popular online gameplay we had. So, and now I imagine that with the drone, the RC jumper, the net hack. So we're actually expanding the mechanics of that with our new toys. So it's going to get an improvement also in Watch Dogs 2.
Watch Dogs 1 was very much about mass surveillance, but we've really pushed it this far and said not only is it about how what information is being gathered, but how is that information being used? And we've basically used the hacker culture as a way of explaining it to the player for the reasons why it could potentially be detrimental, what these hackers would try and do in order to fight it, all these sorts of things. So there's been an evolution of who the hackers are. So there's definitely been a lot of new gameplay elements that have been added in order to address the situation, and what we've done in narrative as well to support that and to sort of craft them into their own stories.
Watch Dogs 2 will be available for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on November.
It starts with reality. With Watch Dogs, it always started with reality. It doesn't mean we cannot be imaginative or all of that, but in reality, hacking and people who break systems are pretty creative naturally. So we want to inspire ourselves from them.
This is a big moment for us in production. Basically, all the parts of the game are colliding together for the first time. And for the past months, we've been able to play the game from beginning to end. So now we see how things are coming together, and you could almost say the game has a life of its own at this point.
When you finish a game after almost 5 years, you need to sleep on it a little bit. Then afterwards, what's exciting is when you start really understanding what you tried to do with the first game, what went well, what went less good, and also what the players have said.
So Watch Dogs was, first of all, a new IP. which is a big deal. It means that you start from almost nothing.
I think the new idea in Watch Dogs 1 was to talk about an hyper-connected society, something that was becoming very important in our day-to-day lives. Chicago was one of the most surveilled cities in North America, so we talked a lot about cameras and surveillance and being watched.
When you played Watch Dogs, you probably played something you never played before because the city was sort of alive. People were not just people walking around the street, but you could hack into their lives and you could exploit them, you could see their secrets, you could manipulate the city, the bridges and the steam pipes and the traffic lights. What we basically created with Watch Dogs 1 was a playground where everything was connected.
So finally shipping the game. Well, a lot of people were happy and excited. We also got a lot of feedback, and we listened to that feedback. I personally spent months reading forums and reading all of the player feedbacks I could see on the web. We wanted to know what people felt and what they wanted to get from the game and what we could improve in the future. At that point, we knew we were going to make a Watch Dogs 2. We felt like we really did a big milestone with the original Watch Dogs. But with Watch Dogs 2, we could really deliver on the fantasy of being a hack.
For this setting of Watch Dogs 2, we wanted to have a different vibe.
So our San Francisco keeps all the important parts of the Bay Area. And there's a different feel, different vibe, a different look to all of the areas of our world.
We wanted to kind of represent all these different areas and the different collections of people that live in these areas and what their lifestyles and their personalities are like.
So we're building a game where basically it's almost a simulation. You're in that world, and if you stop moving and you look around, you feel the world is alive, right? This is the promise of what an open world game is. We broke the feeling that the world is centered on you, the player. So characters shouldn't only react to you, they should react to each other. You know, maybe people start fights. Maybe someone calls the cops on someone else than you. Maybe a dog barks after someone else and chases him down the street. You need to feel as if this city is alive, even if you do nothing. And then if you start doing things, if you start playing in the world, the city should react to what you're doing. It should feel normal. It should surprise you also in how it reacts.
We were really interested in the city itself. It almost feels like the Wild West of technology. And how couldn't you set something in the Wild West of technology?
It's a world that has a lot of potential for gameplay. I mean, if you're a hacker and you go in Silicon Valley and you have the head office of some of the biggest tech company in the world, what will you do? Can you hack into those places? What will you find? So it's a very intriguing setting for a hacker who's exploring the world. So as we're crafting this world, we're putting in it all of the factions that should be in it. So for example, we have various criminal groups trying to fight over the underground of the city. We also have corporations trying to make money and potentially even manipulate people and society. And we also have other groups of hackers trying to tap into the technology that has been set up in the city. Once again, CTOS, the smart city system that was in the first Watch Dogs, is installed in San Francisco, and various people are trying to tap into it to exercise control, power, or to try to make money.
In creating a hero for Watch Dogs 2, we wanted somebody new, somebody that could embody the spirit of California and the spirit of San Francisco. But we needed somebody who was going to be really worthy of all the cool stuff that we wanted to do in the game.
So, our hero in Watch Dogs 2 is Marcus Holloway. He's a young hacker, very brilliant in what he does because of the injustices that he's seen, both being from Oakland and also having been profiled the wrong way and being accused of a crime he actually didn't commit. That sort of made him go against the system.
In terms of visual, we always try to create iconic attributes to the character so that he can be memorable and people wants to play him, but still feels credible inside our world. He's a perfect blend between somebody that's tech-savvy, that represents a little bit the internet culture, but also has that athletic and rebellious feeling to him.
So we had to decide from the beginning what things were comparable between Aiden and Marcus and what things would be different. We focused on parkour. We wanted Marcus to be a lot better at parkour than Aiden. And we're not talking about just like climbing on things, but like being able to like flow and chain moves together. So he's a pretty good fighter, but he's got some interesting quirks too. He's a more expressive guy. We've really tried hard to figure out what kind of melee weapon Marcus would have. We tried a whole bunch of things, and some things were pretty cool, and some things just didn't work at all. We did a lot of research, and we basically did what Marcus would have done. We went onto the internet, and we started watching videos and started reading websites and trying to figure out what kind of stuff we could make. Pretty much all the stuff that you probably shouldn't search at work. In the end, what we stumbled across was this idea of taking a billiard ball and attaching it to a paracord lanyard. And we took this and we handed this to the stunt team, and the first thing that we saw was it was fast. It was so fast that we couldn't believe how fast they were swinging this around their body. And as soon as I saw this video, I'm like, this is crazy. We got it.
Citizens of the world, may we have your attention.
When we say we want to make a game about hacking, really a hacker, it's a culture, but you can have various motivations. The motivation we're excited about was what we call hacktivism. People who want to impact society and have ideals to defend.
So just in the background and in the fantasy of it, you're not a hacker in Watch Dogs 2. You're a DedSec hacker. You're a member of a community. And you're doing grand stuff and big exposure of important information to society because you're not alone and you're working with other people.
The first thing that you have to do when you're talking about hackers is you kind of have to respect where they came from originally. Their messages sound very serious, but there's also a lulzy element to it, the way they have fun with what they're saying. We took that and we said, okay, so what if this is the sort of the spirit of DedSec and of our heroes? What if their spirit is still rooted in the trolling, it's a joke, we're gonna have fun with it, but they still have something important to say.
The DedSec visual was really important for me because it represents everything that's cool about Watch Dogs. It's stylized, it's edgy, and it's raw, and it's underground, tapping into the horror genre, tapping into the internet culture with all the memes, and also all the visual language of the internet.
So there are various characters, various people inside of DedSec. Some are a bit more violent, some have more ideals, some are maybe more intellectual, but they all have in common that they want to fight to preserve a sense of freedom. They don't want people to abuse tech to take control over people. But, you know, I'm not saying they are knights, you know. they are rebellious, they do their own things, their own way, and they want to have fun. That's also one thing, is, you know, a sense of freedom, also a sense of fun through that group.
We are DedSec. Join us.
The new idea for hacking in Watch Dogs 2 is to let the player create his own solutions.
We're adding a lot more depth to hacking. So you have a lot more control, a lot more flexibility in how you hack the world.
So one big category of hacking in Watch Dogs 2 is the entire branch of pushing remote controls to its limit.
One of the big things on Watch Dogs is hacking vehicles. I think this is a real game changer because vehicles are everywhere in the world, and if you can hack into the drive system of a car, you can pretty much drive it wherever you want.
So making sure if you see a forklift in the world, it shouldn't be a forklift. You can just like move the box up, down. You should, just like a camera, press a button and become that thing.
One of the core things that we're doing is we're opening up the game with Watch Dogs 2. You can hack every character. You can hack every car in the game. And you can hack most of the electronics within the city. So that's a lot of potential targets for hacking. And that's not even counting your own tools.
Well, in Watch Dogs 2, we brought in a lot more toys and things to play with because we wanted to embrace the maker culture.
DedSec have these really interesting, intricate guns. They're built on a 3D printer. Basically the cutting edge technology of 3D printing, which is actually building it with metal. It's also got this really cool taser. So if you want to play the game completely non-lethal and not actually kill anybody, you can totally do that.
We're playing with a lot more crafted items and a lot more of little devices that you can use.
One of the things that people kind of like that we've done, they really like what we've done, is we've created toys for Marcus. He has an RC jumper. It's got little wheels, and it's even got this little robotic arm that he can sort of deploy, and he can interact with things. He can unplug things and replug them and take out screws. It's a neat little toy. And then the other gadget he's got is this quadcopter. And it's more about scouting and being the eye in the sky. First-person view on it is incredible, because you're just zipping through the city. It feels like you're flying. Well, you are flying.
Another branch, which is kind of connected to it, is the concept of manipulating people.
In Watch Dogs 1, you could only hack the people that were marked as potential target. Now, you can target the person you want, and you can hack them in multiple ways. For example, I could hack one person and distract them, have their phone ringing so they look at their phone to create a distraction. Later on in the game, you'll also be able to do things we call mass hacking, which is, well, why only hack one if you could hack them all?
There's one thing that I really believe about Watch Dogs players is that there is no Watch Dogs player. There are many types of Watch Dogs players.
You should be deciding how you want to play the game. So that means you can play a mission full gun blazing, that's the way you like to play, full stealth, or through hacking only, project yourself in computers, take control of electronics, influence people, and try to get to your goal that way.
We try to really support all players' types across all different styles of play, and also allow players to combine and mash these styles and play together too. If you've been playing a certain way for a while, we want the game to kind of challenge you to try different things, but also not force you into playing the game a certain way.
We work to improve the driving, make it more accessible while keeping all the different styles of vehicles and adding a lot of physics and feel to all the vehicles. So we keep the depth, but have more accessibility. The team is super happy with the result we've had, and I hope gamers will be just as excited. We are very excited by the potential of what we call seamless online. We start doing that in Watch Dogs 1, so we're expanding on that. We cross path with friends in the city. So you playing in single player and you're crossing path with another player who's also playing in single player. Both of you are members of DedSec, so you're friends, and you can just walk up to each other, you'll say hello, hit the button, and form a co-op team. And what we're going to be showing in the next couple of months is an example of how those things work together to create magical gameplay moments.
The city of San Francisco and the whole Bay Area is exciting. It's vast. You're going to find a ton of things to do that are unique to you.
Basically build your own moments. Create a situation that you start laughing at and you say, wow, this happened, and you want to share it with friends.
You don't want to just be like a roller coaster or a theme park ride where I go through all the same beats as everybody else.
You decide what you want to be spending your time doing. That can be multiplayer, that can be focusing on stories, that can be just exploring the world. Whichever activity you do, we're going to make sure you get rewarded to get you closer to the end game. That's kind of the promise we're making to gamers.
You always know it when something starts to click, it starts to work. Everything changed.
You stop seeing individual components, animations, or texture maps, or vehicles. You just start to see the experience as a whole.
It changes on the floor. People get excited about it.
This is it. It exists.
We are always making the game with the player in mind. They have always been the driving force.
When you come with a sequel that really earns its due, that really does a lot of new things, that has a lot of surprises, it's a great feeling.
In the end, there's nothing more accurate than this. Looking at something, trying to understand it, solely for up with the system.